right. Mike Catalfamo here. Again, I'm the technical sales engineer here at eBridge, and I'm pleased to say that we're joined by John Osmond, who's VP of Business Development at Avalara, who provides e-commerce tax solutions so that you can stay on the correct side of the law with the government. And today we want to bring you a joint webinar discussing a little bit about integration and some of our what eBridge does, and then we also want to talk about the correct handling of sales tax in the marketplace as the government and as different levels of government actually start to crack down on internet commerce sales. And maybe, John, you can give us a brief overview before we get into the presentation about what you'll be covering today.
Certainly. And thank you very much for everyone's time today. And what Avalara is really looking to solve is the science of sales tax compliance for our customers. And we do this across a number of different areas, everything from updating rates to maintaining tax rules by jurisdiction or by product. And we can even handle filing and remittance. So we'll talk in more detail on all of those things.
All right, perfect. So today we're going to just go through a brief introduction of who eBridge Connections is and what we do. And I personally, being the sales engineer, I'm in a lot of pre-sales calls and product demonstrations. And so I encounter questions about handling of tax and tax codes and tax rates. And I've always been aware of Avalara, and that's really the right solution to implement if you want to, as I said earlier, handle your taxation properly and automatically without any worry and hassle. So I'll get into kind of what eBridge does as a standard approach with sales tax, and then we'll turn it over to John, who will explain the correct way to handle it. So eBridge, just for anyone who's not familiar with us, it has been doing data integration for 20 years. All we do is data integration. We primarily integrate with ERP and accounting systems, and over the past several years, we've gotten very heavily into e-commerce integration. And we're a leader in small and medium-sized business and provide hundreds of different types of connectors for EDI, web store, CRM, and all types of other industries. And we are a certified development partner with several of our software publishing partners like Sage and Microsoft. We have certified connectors with eBay, Salesforce, Amazon, PayPal, amongst others, as well as with these custom branded shopping carts, which is where I think a lot of the focus will be on today, such as the Magentos and ASP.NET Storefront and Volusions of the world. And we'll look at, and John will take us through how the Avalara solution ties in with both the web store side and the ERP side of things. eBridge does all of its integration in-house. We don't outsource anything. We only do data integration, meaning we don't build and design your web stores. We don't deploy your ERP system. We don't host your web store or ERP system. So all we do is data integration, and that's our expertise. We have a number of different industries that we've worked with over the years, including automotive and manufacturing, retail. A lot of e-commerce customers of ours have drop shipping business models. So we're really experts in moving and automating the movement of data. This particular slide shows, hopefully illustrates some of the connection types that we support. Along the left-hand side and on the bottom would be anything external to your ERP system and accounting system. And of course, each one of those e-commerce or CRM or EDI marketplaces support different transaction types. And our goal is to automate and integrate those in and out of your back office system so it facilitates your fulfillment process and eliminates any manual entry of data between those platforms. If anyone's interested in learning about the details of our solution, please feel free to reach out to us later, because our integration solution, we like to say it's universal, meaning once you integrate orders for an e-commerce store, processing orders from a CRM or an EDI partner is automatically, I wouldn't say it's automatically included, but you don't need to rebuild an integration from scratch to handle that explicit marketplace. So once orders for say, a Magento are running, you can start processing orders perhaps from Walmart or Target, which is a completely different type of connector, but our universal approach to integration facilitates that without very much effort. So, as I said earlier, I've encountered a number of different issues with keeping compliance with taxation, and at the very simplest level, the type of logic that we've implemented is like this. You have, as a business owner, presence in a particular state. We'll just say maybe it's New York. So therefore, anybody who purchases within New York, you need to collect and remit sales tax to. Anybody outside of New York, you don't bother. That's a very basic approach that I think a lot of people are doing and you're getting away with today. But as I'm sure John will touch on, states are losing out on massive amounts of sales tax, and they need a way to recoup that. And so Amazon actually has been at the forefront of that battle, and a lot's been going on to try and sort this all out so that we have a fair kind of model going forward. But for us, we're going to implement what you want. So if you said, okay, eBridge, if you see a billing address or a shipping address where it's coming from New York, trigger this particular sales tax code in our ERP system, and we will do that. For the most part, ERP systems don't let us specify the sales tax as a dollar value. The ERP, that's one of the features of the ERP system. It calculates things like sales tax. You specify a tax rate and a tax code for a particular item or a particular region. We can hit that tax code and trigger that tax code, but the ERP is really doing all of the work there. And based on the multiple thousands of tax districts in the U.S., as I'm sure I won't get into, John will touch on that, it's impossible for you to set up all of those different tax codes right down to the county level and manage that. And that's one of the reasons that the government and states have not cracked down harder, I think, is that it's not realistic for you to, as a small business owner, to be managing these things manually. But as solutions like Avalara become available, there's less of an excuse to be compliant. And therefore, I think that window of kind of being the Wild West in terms of collecting and remitting sales tax, it has a limited shelf life. So, while eBridge is happy to facilitate whatever you need from a taxation standpoint, I think people need to recognize that ultimately being compliant is not our responsibility. We'll facilitate the movement of data that achieves that, but ultimately the onus is on you to make sure that you are in full compliance and that you don't have the state coming after you for thousands of dollars in unpaid sales tax. John, I hope I didn't step on your toes too much there. I kind of wanted to frame the issue from our perspective as a data integrator, and I think at this point I'd like to turn it over to you, John, and hopefully you can enlighten us all a little bit better about the Avalara solution and how it can help make sure that you stay compliant and you don't have the government chasing after you.
No, you did a great job of outlining kind of the way it is today, and then I can take it from there. So thank you.
Perfect. Great. Go, John.
I'm going to show my screen. And can you confirm, Mike, that you're seeing my Avalara screen here?
I am seeing it.
All right, good news. Well, once again, thank you for everyone's time. And really, Avalara is here to solve the science of sales tax. I mentioned it earlier, and Mike touched on it a bit in terms of the challenges that are being managed manually within ERP, accounting, e-commerce systems, point-of-sale systems, CRM systems. You can name configuration systems and quoting systems. All of these items, all these platforms require sales tax management and overall sales tax compliance. And there's one thing that holds true across all of them. Any platform, any one of those that I named, is that no one designed native capabilities, native tools, native logic within those ERP or e-commerce or point-of-sale platforms that is accurate. They did not do the job 100% correct. It was a best effort afterthought. And so I don't single anyone out when I say that. Anyone in the on the webinar today, I'm sure can attest to the fact that it's a time-consuming process, it's busy work, and whether you know it or not, and part of what we'll educate you about today a little bit is, even if you do a really, really good job using those native tools and keeping them up to date, they are flawed from the get-go. You're stumbling out of the gate, so to speak, when you're using those tools, and it's no fault of your own. It has to do with things like zip codes being very good for delivering mail, but not very good at determining if you are inside or outside of certain boundaries, whether you're talking about counties, whether you're talking about unincorporated and incorporated areas, whether you're talking about a radius that a police or a fire district might use. All of these irregularities result in zip codes being imperfect and result in inaccuracies when you're using zip codes within those native tools and tables. And so, you know, that's just one example, just to start with, of a reason of why Avalara exists. Obviously, it is a statutory requirement. It doesn't make you money. It doesn't save you any money. It's just something that has to be done and done correctly. And if you don't do it right, there's penalties and interest and all the other fun things that come along with an auditor discovering you know, the limitations of the particular system that you might be manually maintaining. We talked about jurisdictions. There's over 17,000 of them. But then you can get beyond that, and you talk about rules. You talk about jurisdictional rules, sourcing rules, tax holidays that happen for a few days, new taxes, change taxes. All of these things happen on the fly. It's a relatively simple process today, and Mike touched on this as well, where e-commerce merchants have had the luxury of the government giving them a free pass on sales tax nationwide. But what that has resulted in the big picture, is that online merchants have been kicking the butt of all these brick-and-mortar people who used to sell people their office supplies or their toys or whatever it is that people are buying from online merchants now. You can name anything under the sun. That has resulted in a gradual but consistent erosion of revenue from the states, and Mike touched on that as well. This erosion of revenue over time has resulted from internet merchants selling in the states where you know, previously those brick-and-mortar stores were always paying their tax right there from the store location in those states. So that change, the winds of change that are blowing, have been something that the e-commerce world has known about and has been more acutely aware of than anyone else in the industry. And what that is that the government is looking, and this is at the federal level and the state level, governments are looking at different ways of reclaiming that lost revenue. And the only way to do that is to find a way to compel businesses, online businesses like Amazon, of course, being the big name that everyone sees in the press over the last couple of years, but compelling these businesses to collect and remit, and they're going to change the rules of the game that everyone has been playing by. Mike mentioned it before, the technical term for when you're a one-state company and all you do is worry about that one state where you have your physical presence, it means that you have what's called nexus in that state. Nexus was something that was determined and defined by the Supreme Court in a decision of Quill Office Supply versus the state of North Dakota. The state of North Dakota was aware of Quill Office Supply, and at that time, in '92, it had to do with catalog sales, but North Dakota was saying, hey, listen, all of our residents were buying their stuff from in-state brick-and-mortar places. Now they're ordering out of state. Quill isn't charging sales tax. We say they owe us sales tax. Supreme Court, tell us what the law of the land is. And they said you have to have Nexus, Quill Office Supply. You're free and clear because you don't have a building or a body in the state of North Dakota. Sell away. And so that really trailblazed what we now know and what defined the e-commerce rules of how things are happening now, in addition to the government wanting to foster internet commerce and to make the public comfortable and have them embrace the internet. Tax-free commerce obviously had a big part of making that happen. Quick illustration now to go back into the science of sales tax. That's a little bit of background, but maybe to continue and finalize that point is that the state and local governments are saying, okay, we're going to now not look at Nexus. We're going to look at revenue more than anything else. And we're going to try and come up with some rules that would compel businesses to collect and remit no matter how many states they are physically located in. All states collectively would somehow compel them to collect tax anywhere they're selling based on their, presumably, some dollar threshold, which would be the trigger for if a merchant has to collect and remit in any given state. So these are the things that you may have heard about in conjunction with Amazon. Streamlined Sales Tax Project is one name that's very well known. The Main Street Fair Tax Act is a bill that's in front of Congress. It's been called a number of different iterations of that name in the press, but it's essentially the spirit of the title is to say, they're leveling the playing field for the brick-and-mortar folks against the internet folks, to make it seem like they're making things fair instead of reclaiming lost revenue. And so, in any event, whether the government at the federal level passes a law that is the law of the land, or if that fails, states are already taking matters in their own hands and testing their own recipes that they're passing at the state level, which, based on their ability to enforce the laws that they're creating, they're creating laws that would say, okay, if you're selling into a state where you're selling more than $500,000 a year, you owe a sales tax, whether you're here or not. And all states who haven't done something at that level are kind of sitting on the fence, looking at the landscape, taking it in, and they're going to bake their own cake, so to speak, when they see how everyone else's recipes of collecting internet revenues, sales tax revenues, how those end up working out. Some more of the complexity. We talked about jurisdictional boundaries. This is an illustration that really shows it all here when you can drill down on the street level of taxing jurisdictions, and you can see that when you look at a zip code being able to determine tax rates, a zip code is not going to be able to determine that there's a house like this one here, which is being taxed at 4.85%, and everyone else on the block is being taxed at a different rate for some reason. Maybe he has a friend in a higher governmental place who did a favor for them, or whatever the reason is. He's paying that 4.85%, but then almost certainly within the same zip code, you can see 8.35% is what his possibly friend on the other side of the block is paying, because for some reason or another, he got pulled into this boundary when no one else on his side of the street, at least within a few houses of him, is paying that rate. You can see some very haphazard things also happening here that create confusion when you're trying to get the correct tax rate. And when we look at just this level of complexity, it's a customer service issue. When you charge someone the wrong tax, assuming it's the higher tax that they don't want to be paying if they don't, if they don't really belong in that particular area, they have to call you up. Someone on your company has to take the time to pick up the phone, hear them tell them that they have the wrong tax rate, back out the transaction, re-invoice, or try to collect the difference or whatever the situation is. And it really is just a time-consuming mess that no one really wants to be fooling with. Why not get it right with Avalara the first time? And I'm going to actually skip a few slides here just to keep my presentation reasonable and just really hit upon a couple final examples of complexity by jurisdiction. And what you're going to see here is the radius boundary in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And depending on the layers of tax that are overlapping one another, you can be paying anywhere between 4% and 8.1% in that particular area. So it is simply impossible to do it all correctly by zip codes, and that's where Avalara uses our technology to actually enhance the accuracy of our calculation. We will take an address, standardize it, validate it, apply longitude, latitude, and street address information to ensure that we get the correct rate and that we can actually drill down on a rooftop to get the correct rate within the calculation. So whether it's an ERP system, an accounting system, an e-commerce platform, point of sale, CRM, or even all of the above, Avalara plugs in 230 and growing different platforms at the publisher level. And we are then able to be, much like eBridge is the hub of data between these platforms, Avalara is, and you can envision Avalara at the same position within that diagram that Mike had showed earlier. We are the hub of any number of applications in your ecosystem. We are the single point of sales tax compliance. Within the AvaTax calc engine, you are actually able to do the, as I mentioned, the full calculation, get the intelligence of the calculation, set up your company within our console one time for your profile of what your company looks like and what you're selling and what who your customers are. And Avalara takes it from there. We end up just plugging right in to the ERP, to the e-commerce platform, and those two applications can use AvaTax rules and rates and calculation data within both applications. And so now you don't have reconciliation issues. You don't have inconsistencies with how one platform charges sales tax and versus how another one charges sales tax. And then at the end of the whole equation, when you're trying to report on everything, you're not doing reports from two different systems and attempting to reconcile data from both systems and make it all fit into the boxes on a sales tax return, or worse yet, try to pull that data from your systems when you're defending yourself in an audit. You can actually go to a single place, the Avalara console, and pull a report that, again, has that consistent, accurate data across all platforms in a unified reporting format where you can actually then prepare your returns if you choose to continue doing them manually. Or if you're defending yourself in an audit, the Avalara console is where you would download a report that will give that auditor exactly what they want to see from a sales tax compliance perspective. And then optionally, as I'll show you here in a moment, Avalara can prepare and file those returns. But it truly gives our customers the opportunity to overcome the limitations of their platforms, no matter what those platforms are. Another piece that resonates with many customers is exemption certificate management. Avalara has extensive capabilities for automating the creation of certificates in a browser, the management of the certificates in an electronic archive, and the renewal and maintenance of those certificates on an ongoing basis. We can certainly engage any customer who's interested in that on a one-on-one basis. Finally, AvaTax returns. We can do the whole preparation, filing, and remittance of your sales tax returns. And again, we're unifying and reporting on the data across all of your operations in any multi-channel or omni-channel, whatever you choose to call it nowadays. We are going to unify that data and give you a clear, concise picture of what your company has done and why you're doing it accurately. Finally, a quick glimpse of Avalara as a company. I have to admit my slide needs updating, and I have been on vacation among traveling and other things, but we're actually approaching, and I think we've surpassed 10,000 customers. We are now over 1.2 billion calculations annually, filing 12 billion in sales tax returns on behalf of our customers. And we are a streamlined sales tax certified provider, which means we have the stamp of approval. If the federal government enacts the Main Street Fair Tax Act, Avalara is a certified system, fully approved for helping, for reconciling and actually making our customers essentially audit-proof. But that's a whole other discussion. Our console, very simplistic, and you can see here, intuitive, tab-driven, icon-driven. It's meant to be used by finance and accounting people, and we are then able to eliminate the IT requirement and be able to provide for provide for implementation, which is far easier, far more affordable, and easier for finance accounting folks to manage on an ongoing basis. And you'll see here you can set how you set up your company in the organization tabs, and then there's icons for how you configure the profile of your company. And really, that's without going into a whole lot of detail. We'd be happy to go into far more detail specific to any one company here on a one-on-one basis if you choose to perhaps reach out to Avalara on our website. But Avalara is here to make it easy. We're here to make it an affordable solution that small and mid-sized businesses can actually afford to utilize. And again, the ease of implementation is something that we have made possible by way of 230-plus integrations. So with that, I think I can hand the presentation back over to Mike.
Thanks, John.
My pleasure. And let me just get this redone. And thank you very much again.
Oh,
sorry.
I'll just put up a contact screen for our team here. If anyone has any questions, please submit them. We're here to go over anything that you'd like more information on or clarification on. Of course, eBridge is here to answer any questions regarding integration, and John and his team is available to answer anything that you might want to know about taxation and making sure you're compliant. Certainly, we're talking about complementary solutions here. This isn't eBridge's expertise, nor would we want it to be. It's just, Avalara has built a whole business system keeping track of this particular complexity and built technology around it. And we work together to help make sure that you're running your business as smoothly and efficiently as possible. And, it's going to be more and more relevant, and it's probably in your best interest to start exploring it sooner rather than later before you get audited and before you end up in a situation where, you're going to have to owe a whole bunch of back taxes. So absolutely now is the time to really start considering this, particularly if you're a larger seller online. They're going to probably target you first rather than maybe your smaller neighbor. But this is very relevant, and it's becoming more relevant with each passing day. Let's see here. I don't see any questions up in the GoToMeeting. So either we did a fantastic job here, John, or people are going to follow up with us independently.
Well, and I always say, you know, if we didn't put you to sleep, then we're fortunate, and it means we did a great job. So I'm going to assume the latter.
That's good. I want to thank everyone for your time today. Hopefully that's been enlightening, and of course, you know, we want both John's team and our team here wants to talk to you about your specific situation. Of course, we can't cover everybody's you know, details in a webinar, so we'll talk with you one-on-one, and anytime you want to reach out, we're here for you. Any last parting words, John?
Well, we certainly appreciate the time. Thank you very much for the team including us and making it possible to do this today, and we hope that we can help some of the folks on the call with any questions they might have.
Perfect. All right, thanks everyone, and until next time, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, everyone.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.